Thank you so much for the introduction, and happy and excited to be here. So it's all about AI hallucination and how you can work against this. Let me start with one figures that I think all of you who somehow think about AI projects have already heard or read about those figures and so on. 75% of all AI projects today fail, right? That's nothing new. We all know this. But there's some good news on these figures, right? If you look at it, that means already that 25% of the AI projects produce today already value. And value means a little bit different what the speaker before means. They take already decisions for us today. If you take AI agents, it's not just about analyzing text. It's not just about large language models. It's not just about helping us to answer some questions that we put in with real text and real native language. It's really about AI agents that take themselves real decisions, bringing companies and results and decisions forward. And this is huge, right? 25%, I would say in 3-4 years, who thought about this 4 years ago. The bad things about it, it means 3 out of 4 fail, right? And this is huge costs. This is huge costs in your project teams, huge costs in your investments, huge risks, because if those AI agents decide for the wrong things, it simply means you have to cover up this again backwards, right? So taking these things that bring a huge opportunity at the same time also means big risks to your projects and big risks. The real bad thing about this figure, from my perspective and our perspective from our company, is that it is simply wrong that you can solve it by sheer data quality. It will not help you. It's a necessary thing you have to start with, absolutely. There will not be any AI agent that will work on wrong, not fresh, not accurate data. That can't work, right? This is an absolute basic thing that you need. No thing around, no question around this. But still, AI will hallucinate. And the reason for this, let me explain by using 2 examples. These are real-world examples. From companies, one German company, one international company. They failed with AI agents, and they invested a lot, millions, and they failed afterwards. The first one is a manufacturer, huge manufacturer, more than 10,000 employees. You know, for manufacturers producing things with a ton of machines, it is super important to have predictive maintenance. If you have machines and they run out of maintenance during the production cycle, this costs you real money. This is not just about fine-tuning, it's costs, right? Your production goes down. So IoT means you really see upfront when maintenance could happen in the future, right? And for this, you need data. You need data about your machines coming from hundreds, thousands of sensors. No human being can analyze this data in real time any longer. So you need machines, you need agents, you need AI to analyze that data. Those companies did this, and they found out that machines, there's a correlation between vibrations in the machines and afterwards failing. So these machines, before they went out of working, they started to vibrate. And they collected all this data. So they had all this vibration information and the data. It was correct. So they had all about 1,500 machines. Each machine had 1,000 sensors in it. And they collected all the vibrations those machines produced and put it into the AI and said, hey, whenever the level of vibrations step up, react. Immediately there must be those spare parts. Please order those spare parts, order the service for these machines, and make it upfront before the machine breaks. So we can save all the money afterwards, right? Problem was they analyzed this 6 months later, and they produced millions of costs on top what they had before because they ordered much more spare parts, much more repair than what was necessary. The reason for this was a very simple one. There was cleaning processes of the machines. Automatic cleaning processes. So the machines started from time to time a cleaning process, and you know your printer at home, if they make the cleaning, they're vibrating, right? So that these big machines did the same. They cleaned themselves, started to vibrate, and immediately at the end AI agents decided, hey, there must be something wrong, I order some spare parts. Millions of damage in this project. The other one, completely different industry, but same example, retail. That's again a real life scenario. There was a correlation between bringing down costs or bringing down prices for different goods on different days in the week. Not every day was the same. There was different discounts you can do, and then you really saw that many more people came into the shops and bought those products. So AI decided and built up a model that simply tried to use those patterns to bring down the costs for different goods on different working days. And out of this, obviously, the making sense would be, we are bringing much more in revenue as it worked in the past for some examples. The reality, again, was completely different, and it was different because the real linkage was whenever they did in the past discounting to their products, they also did television merchandising. So the machine and the AI didn't know that there's any correlation between, we shrink or we bring down our prices and more people coming on Sundays to the shops immediately has any kind to do with, in the same time, they invested that money to bring in more TV advertising. So there have been two data pots using just the one data. It was completely correct again. The data was correct. It was maintained. It was accurate. It was fresh. 100,000 of people, consumers, going in the shops decided because of those discounts to come in the shop. But in reality, they decided because out of merchandising and advertising into the television. So there are correlations between different data assets, right? And this is the big topic for today. How can you find those correlations? How can you find, if you look just on the data of a machine, to identify that there are also other procedures, other data pots in your company that are already existing, that you need to also feed into your AI, that the AI can see the context out of this. And context is a big word here, right? You need somehow to give this context to AI, because the learnings out of these two examples simply, good data does not mean that your AI model is a good one. It means you need this context on top. You need not the sheer data, not the fresh, not the accurate data. You need a context layer on top of your data that helps AI to see the correlations, to see and understand that this data pot connects somehow to this data pot, right? The second topic here, obviously, it's not just about historically recognizing of patterns. It's not just because you have huge amount of data out of the history. In many cases, these patterns doesn't help you because in the meantime, your machines have changed, your environment has changed. They also have built in automatic procedures like these cleaning operations and so on. So you need to prioritize and make different valuable scalings on your data. Sometimes fresh data, younger data is much more important than the older data, and you have to inform AI about this. And the last one, and this is super critical, and the main part of my presentation will around this, and it fits to the presentation before mine, it will not work without business. There are users, and in this case, AI agents are your users. They will decide for you. And that means in the past, it was we built up business intelligence things, and management saw some nice reports, and out of this, they reacted. But there was always this human layer in between, right? Somebody looked at the figures and said, no, that can't work, right? That will not work. It was never that case in the past. So they repaired the reports, put it in Excel, and repaired those dashboards, as we have heard. AI agents will not do this, right? They will just see the data, see the results, and directly react on those. So again, this big risk topic. So you need upfront, not finally when you see something is broken, upfront to involve business to align on the real connectivity, the context, the semantics between the data assets that you have collected, many thousands perhaps in your databases, your data lakes and so on, but also the business view. How those business and data processes somehow relate together and have to bring together to an AI machinery that the context can be seen. So 3 topics. These are the 3 topics, and I'm coming from a company producing software around these things, one data. Those are the 3 topics that we cover with our solution, but nevertheless, overall, these are the topics you have somehow to cover it doesn't matter with which tools, with which processes, you have to cover them. The first one is trust. I liked also the presentation before me that was simply around quality is not enough. You need trust, right? And this is exactly our understanding for this topic. Trusted data is something not completely different than qualitative data, but it's something on top. It means you have accurate data, you have filled-in data, you have fresh data, you have governed data, you have the contracts behind, you have the semantics behind, you have the schemas behind, all good. But at the end, you have to bring data to data to data into context. And that means you need a broader view on your data, on the data parts that you have in your company, right? The second topic, and this solves the first one, it helps you to solve this, is you have somehow in your companies to bring together business users and data teams. Today we see hundreds of these projects per year. Typically it happens like, oh, here we have our configuration document, please, specifications for example, coming from the data team, please business fill it in, right? Does it work? No, it has never worked and it will not work in the future. Especially not if it goes into AI and something automatically will react, right? Business hates to fill out specification documents, especially if they come from data teams, right? They are configured, they are produced in a different style, and business is used to work day by day with that data, right? With their processes. So what you have to imagine is you have the world of data teams and you have the world of business teams. And somehow you have to bring them together so business can search for what is already there. Are there already data assets that they can reuse? Is there anything that is collecting vibrations in our company? Because I know vibrations can be terrible for our machines, right? Are there the assets around this and this and this and that? So there must be a very good search. Search must be language narrative, right? It can't be in a SQL statements that somebody from business will search if some data is happening. So you need a marketplace in between where business can search for existing data and best case for existing data products. So bring up your data that can be reused, scalable reused in form of data products. Search for them, reuse them, and if they're not there, this piece in between, the software platform, needs to support business users to define and to accurate to the data teams what they need, right? This is a big problem today. We see a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of Word documents where business describes what at the end reports should show up, dashboards should show up, or today AI agent should be filled in, right? Business describes this in natural language. And then on the other teams, you have on the other side, you have teams thinking in bits and bytes at the end, right? Using data technology, using data teams. And just in this translation between what business wants to have and what data team is delivering, both sides think they have done it right? At the end, the result is wrong. So it simply means you have to bring them together. You have to give business a tool that they can search for those things, but also to formulate what they need. And in the same time, this is translated to the data teams, what they have to build up their data pipelines with. If this is unconnected, it will not work. So you need a platform in between. And then the third part comes into the race. It simply means if you do this manually, again, it will work once, exactly once, right? This is huge. If you have seen how data teams are working today, building data pipelines, this is huge workload, right? If you want to automatize this, make it scalable and so on, it will simply not work in an age of AI that this work is done manually. So you have, again, use AI agents in the software for that purpose to automatic translate ABAP code to SQL code, to Python, to put it into Databricks, whatever it is, right? This, if you try to code this manually by billions and billions of code lines of logics, it will simply not scale, right? So you need to bring this in your company into a way that this is ongoing somehow by software, by AI, done automatically. And there are software tools that can do that. Happy to show you afterwards. So trust, alignment, automation. If you take something with you today from my presentation, take those three words. Care for trust, trusted data, more than just quality data. Care for business and data alignment, same understanding of those sides. And care for automation. Don't do this manually. It will fail after the second and after the third one. talking in a little bit more technology, and for the data guys, more in functional aspects. You can break down this to typical software features, functions, modules that your data stack at all. It must not be one software tool, right? It can be your complete stack, but those are the topics you have somehow to cover. And again, it's about not just data quality. You see it's important, but it's not all. You need the end-to-end lineage. You need to know at the end, where does this data come from? Who owns it? Who repaired it? How fresh it is, right? Is it linked already? Was it used in the past? Was it valuable used in the past? So it brought up results and all these things. So transparency around your data is super important. The main part again in the middle, I brought up the modules again. You need software that helps you to formulate and to bring together context, semantics, and yeah, with data products, we say in the middle you have the contract. You have a contract between business and the data teams where you formulate what the business team wants and what the data team delivers, right? And as the contract in the middle defines this, both sides know it will be, at the end, it will work out. And then in the automation area, it's around code conversion. There's no way out that you do all these code conversions manually, but still companies are doing this. And the complete pipeline, data pipeline automation, right? There are tools that you can use, standardized. Perhaps they will not produce 100%. Even our software is not producing 100%. But imagine you're migrating legacy data to a new data platform that takes you sometimes projects 4 years, and you can optimize them by 60%. And then you're just focusing on the more complicated cases, right? Because the simple cases you can automatize. That's huge, because then your teams can use their workload, their manual efforts, just on the real complicated cases to bring code over to the new place. From a flow, and very short on this one, it simply means you should separate the data content and meta information. Our company, for example, our software is just working with meta information. We let the data where it is. We take out all the meta information with AI agents. We analyze the data with AI agents. We get out of the meta information all the combinations, all the structural elements, all the context, all the semantics. We build up the data products in our marketplace, and then we make this public in whatever data platform you have, and in that moment, the real payload happens, right? So the payload, the real data is then moving over from whatever the data assets you have, wherever they are in databases, in data lakes, in BWs, whatever they are. In that moment, still that moment, you just work with the meta information, you structure your data product layer, the trust layer, and then you're pulling those patterns, that framework, together with the data, with the payload, and send it automatically to the end system, whatever it is, Databricks, Snowflake, BDC, take whatever it is. And out of this, your AI agents not just take one asset, but they take the connectivity because of this trusted layer. How does those assets work together? Yeah, so coming back to the maintenance case that we had at the beginning, it simply means you don't have just the maintenance information. You on top have other informations, like the sensor information, like the handbooks of those machines. I'm pretty sure in those handbooks, if you would read the handbooks, there is something that says, during the cleaning cycles of these machines, there will be vibrations, right? So if somebody would have read this and would have given that text information about these 1,000 machines to the machinery, AI, right, there would have been already that learning around that there is somehow a connectivity between and context between machine and vibration and cleaning. And if you put this in a semantic layer, in a layer that adds the context in form of data products, your AI at the end will work. Good, I'm at the end of my presentation. Thanks a lot. Our booth is on the right side. Happy if you have questions to come there. We can show all of this live, with live systems, with live software. And we'll have also tomorrow a workshop. Thank you.